Hello to everybody. Oops, now the recording has started. Okay, hello to everybody in the Northwest Territory, to Brandy in Georgia, and I think Rochelle is in the Northeast area, and Chrissi is in Manchester, England. So we have a nice representation today. We welcome Chrissi Nerantze. Chrissi is an experienced academic developer at the University of Salford. She's the program leader of the postgraduate certificate in academic practice, and this is offered to teachers in higher education, and that leads to a teaching qualification for higher education. Her approach is experimental, and she enjoys challenging and stretching her students so that they make new discoveries. Chrissi is very enthusiastic and surely is a creative individual. She shares that creativity and her inspirations and innovations with us today. So welcome, Chrissi Nerantze, and I'm going to go off video and let Chrissi take over from here. Hello, Diana.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for the introduction, Cal. I think you said so many nice things about me. So very kind of you to think all these things. I wobble too much, I think, and I'm going to switch off the video shortly. But since we are a small group, and if people want, I think it would be useful to introduce yourself, so I get to know you a bit, and we are going to do that by going first to my next slide here, and if you would like to take one of the markers, please, and position yourself on the map, and then we can start with Brandy, perhaps, to tell us a few things about himself, and then Diane, Jim, and Rochelle. I'm not sure if I pronounced that properly. I do apologize if I don't. Okay, let's position ourselves, and Brandy, I'll give you the microphone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Brandy. I currently live in Athens, Georgia, and this is my senior year at Empire State College, majoring in visual studies, so that's why I'm here today. I'm a zine maker and have a general interest in art and visual literacy, and that's about all.
That's great. Thank you very much. I'm from Athens, Greece, originally. Thank you. Diane, please.
Hi, I'm Deanna. I'm currently from Brunswick, Maine. My husband's military, so we travel a lot. I'm majoring in history with a concentration in public history, which is why I'm in this class. I'm also a mom of two boys, 11 and 8.
Thank you very much, Diane. I'm also a mom, and my boys are 11 and 8 as well, which is a great coincidence. Good that you can travel around the world and meet different people, different cultures. So good to have you here. Can we ask who's next? I'll push something back. Then Jim, please. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see if this works. I'll try and put my video on very briefly here. And I'm kind of wired into the projector here, but there's part of my class a little bit hard to see. Now we got a little bit too much lag here for a good video. But thank you anyhow, and greetings to all.
Hi, Jim. That's really great. So you are with your class at the moment. They're all participating in our webinar here. It's a great way, isn't it, to bring people from outside into the classroom and extend conversations. That's wonderful. Good to have you here.
Seem to have lost the sound on you, Chrissi. Rochelle says she can type, but she doesn't have camera or microphone.
Yes, that's fine. I just said, I'm not sure if that came through. Yes, I mean, please tell a few things about yourself That would be fantastic. Right. Okay, are we waiting? Is Michelle? Carol, do you know if Michelle is able to write something?
Yeah,
Can she hear me?
She can hear you. I believe she's busy babysitting. Rochelle,
Okay.
if you can at least just say hello and a tiny bit about yourself.
Right. Perhaps when she joins, if she joins us a bit later, we'll have the opportunity to speak to her. So we better get started. I'll switch my video off so it's not distracting for now. Okay. Switch off, and here we go. Thank you very much for positioning yourself. So we see that you are in the US, and I'm on my own here in the UK at the moment. It shows that the technology can bridge these gaps and bring us closer together, which I think is fantastic. And I think Jim, if I see his testing, collaborate today with his students, so it's fantastic and good to know that you're going to join BISMAS with Carl, who's doing an excellent job there. Okay, the plan for today is, it's actually a plan, and it's looking together at visual communication, visual literacy, and what that means in the context of learning and teaching. Are you all happy with that? Would you like to scribble something on the sticky note here on the whiteboard? If you want to do something different, just cross it out and add something. There's plenty of room. I'll give you 1 minute for that. Thank you. Feel free to add your thoughts and what you would like to get out of today's meeting here or session that we are doing together, because there's no point me talking here. I would like that to be an interactive experience for everybody, so we get the maximum out of it and we all learn from each other, because we all have to contribute. We all know loads of different things. Okay, I see that you're happy. You want fun. Okay, that's great. And you're happy with this plan. Fantastic. So let's go ahead, and your work starts now. So I'm asking here all of us to think about what is visual communication? What do we really mean by this? And I'll give you 2 minutes to, again, scribble if you want to draw it, what it means on the, I can't say whiteboard, on the yellow board, please. Okay, let's do that together. Let's see what we come up with. What is visual communication? What does it involve? And I'll stop talking now. Right, you're doing really well. I'll give you 1 more minute, and what we'll do then is we'll ask Jim, would you like to summarize in a minute or two what we have here? Is this okay with you? If you can give me a smiley, perhaps. Thank you. I'm not sure if Jim heard me. I had a request if you can summarize the thoughts that we have around visual communication on the yellow board. Is this okay with you, Jim?
Chrissi, were you asking me to do it with the microphone?
Yes, Jim, that would be great if you want to take the microphone, if you want to put the video on, and you can actually draw the connections of ideas and thoughts that we have here on the whiteboard, what different people have said, and see the links between these, if that's okay with you.
Okay, well, I'll give it a shot. I have to confess that I was planning to be somewhat of a passive participant in the lesson today. Let me just put the video on and show you. So this is what came to my mind when I heard you asking about, for examples of visual communication. I'm not sure if you can see there. We are building for our math class a set of bookshelves for our classroom. And so you see there Christina and David who are putting a third coat of varnish on it. And so one of the things that I use often for visual communication is some pictures. I really appreciate the technology that allows me to very quickly create a digital image of pretty much anything I want and put it up in various formats. So I need to look at the yellow board here and just see what we've got. Images that connect people, yes, especially when we're talking about, let me just grab my pointer here. Images that connect people, especially when we're talking about different cultures and societies. I don't know anything that as quickly and easily communicates, especially cross-culturally, as an image does. Using hands and the whole body. That's one that I don't think of as often, but it certainly could, I guess, more in a presence. I'm not thinking so much of digital communication. I frequently hear my students who are quite active on Facebook, and we use that as encourage them to write. It's a good, highly motivated use of literacy. And I hear, oh, that's not what I meant, or oh, you took it wrong. I'll hear exclamations like that. And it's probably because the visual cues of the hands and the whole body are missing in text communication. So I guess that would be my quick summary of what we have, what I see up there.
That's really great. Thank you very much, Jim, for doing that. And thank you for showing us around your classroom as well. I think that gave us a flavor of where you are and what you are doing there with your students. I think that's really great. I would agree with you here that pictures do connect people, and there are a way to connect quickly and easily. And it's a question of, is this a separate language or not? And I think we'll come back to that. And how easy or how difficult is it to learn to communicate in a visual way. But increasingly, visual communication becomes more and more important. I actually don't think it ever wasn't important. And if we think back when people lived in caves, I mean, they used to communicate through images and through visual symbols. So I don't think it's that new, but we'll have a look to see what is actually new about it. But we are bombarded through the web and wherever we look around us through images. So it's a vital part. It's part of who we are and part of life. So I was thinking, because we looked just now on how the words and images differ. If we can actually define that, what is different? Can I ask you to write your thoughts perhaps in the images circle here? What makes a picture unique? What makes a picture a picture? Can I give you 1 minute to write again on the board? Thank you. Carol. feel free to participate as well. I think I was just talking here and nobody could hear me because I didn't push the button. So I think I do need to repeat what I was just saying. I was reading the observations that you made here about the words and that they can mean different things, while pictures can be interpreted in different ways. And I was wondering how these two statements differ. And I was going to ask Carol if she wants to make some comments on these two statements. Is this okay? Thank you.
Well, I actually said no because I was hoping somebody else would, but words, depending upon what your primary language is, words can mean many, many different things in translation. Images, not so much. Images are, yes, they're up for different interpretations, but images are fairly universal in what we think about certain images. Language has more difficulty to it than an image does. And that's about all I have to say.
Thank you. That's really useful. So we could say that looking at an image doesn't mean that we need to learn a specific language, and that we can communicate through images with people who do speak different languages and are from different cultures, and we would still be able to understand. Obviously, there is an issue there with interpretation, and we'll get back to that. But I'm wondering if anybody else would like to comment. Please take the microphone. Thank you. Right, we don't have anybody brave there at the moment, but that's fine. But feel free to add further comments on the slide here, if you like, on the board. But we also have here is quick but superficial. And I think that's something interesting to look at. I don't know who wrote it, but what do we mean by images and are superficial? Yes, they can be quick, but superficial. Could the person who wrote that add a comment to give us some more information about it, so we can understand? Or make a picture perhaps so we can understand, because at the moment we try to explain the difference between words and images through using words, which is again quite interesting, I would say. So maybe we can draw it and see what we mean. Hi Jim, yes, okay. So would you like to explain that, please? Jim, would you like to tell us what you mean with this? Thank you.
Chrissi, if you're talking, I cannot hear you, and somehow or another, Jim's mic is not functioning. So he typed his answer.
Thank for pointing that out. Yes, Carol, I was actually talking. I do apologize. I did click the button. I'll just leave it on for now, so we don't have that problem. But what I was trying to say is that we have an advert here from the Worldwide Fund for Nature, and there are no words on that ad, but they're not really needed, because what we see, we translate what we see into a meaning, and I think we probably understand the same thing. So if we had words here on that image, what more, what would be added? What would be the value of words? I'm asking that question. If you would like to write perhaps a little comment in the chat or directly on the image here, that would be really useful. So if we had the image plus some text, would it make that image even richer, and why? Or is it not really needed, and why? Yes, I think it's Carl who made an interesting observation here. It depends on the age of the viewer and the experiences we have, and I do agree with that. So while we say that images, we all understand images, I think our own experiences influence the interpretation quite heavily, I would say, especially in things like that, which have strong messages behind. So I do agree with that, Carol. Jim says, the image makes me recall what I heard about the Amazon being the lungs of the earth, Amazon was a forest. Yes, it links with experiences but also with knowledge. So do you think there is then something different when children look at images than adults, or do you think their experiences help them understand images, and are their interpretations different from interpretations that adults would make? What are your thoughts? Does anybody want to take the microphone or make a comment in the chat box? Okay, I can't see anybody commenting further on that, but I think we would probably all agree that it does depend on knowledge and experience. Okay. Right, let's bring that all into the online environment perhaps, because we are now meeting here online, and there are various technologies that we are using at the moment. At the moment we are using Blackboard Collaborate, but there are a number of other tools that we could be using to connect visually. And why would we do that? Because I think we do want to see each other. It's important. People like to see each other, not just face to face, but also online, when they work together, when they learn together. And there are a number of technologies that enable us to do that. For example, Jim is now testing this technology with his students, and is thinking about using that with them in the future. So technologies can bring us together, and technologies connect us and enable us to see each other. At the moment you don't see me. I don't know how you feel about that, and if you would see me, would that be a distraction perhaps? I would be interested in your views about that. So what I mean is, if we are bombarded with images, do we feel that we get lost in them and can't filter out what's more important, and lose perhaps the message? Deanne, feel free to say something. Thank you.
I think that when there are a lot of images, it can be distracting, and I think sometimes narrowing it down. Like the last image was one big image, and I think it portrayed a clear picture, but when there are a lot of different images, it can confuse the pictures. But for me, this connective technology is huge. My husband's on the other side of the country right now. He's been in San Diego since September, and for myself and my boys, we can see him and we can talk to him and we can know that he's really okay by seeing him, by just hearing his voice or reading an email or even a letter. The image changes the way things are viewed. You can tell how people really feel by looking at their faces and looking at their body language. And I definitely think you can be overwhelmed by images. I think it can change your perception and can even confuse you as to what people are trying to say if there are too many.
Yeah, and that's really, it was really helpful. Thank you very much for commenting. And I do agree with you that technologies can bring us together, and seeing each other and how people feel is really powerful and important, especially if we are away from people we love, but also people we work together remotely. So seeing their faces, I think, can be very reassuring as well, that they are okay and they're okay with us working together. So thank you very much for commenting on that. So social media, let's go here. We said at the beginning that people always love to communicate through visual platforms, so visual means either face-to-face or remotely. But now things have changed, and what we have is we have loads of platforms, we have loads of social media tools, and loads of tools to manipulate actually images as well, which is great because we can all be creative and we can all connect in visual ways and disseminate and share our messages and life stories through images on the web, and connect through these images with other people. And I think that people we know and people we don't know, and create new friends, new collaborators around the globe, which we wouldn't otherwise meet. So I think that's really powerful. And it's practice that's happening around the world now. It's a way that I have met Carol as well. So and Carol met me. We wouldn't have access to each other otherwise. So technologies can connect people. Is anybody wanting to say something about this? Okay, I'll just continue here and briefly say David Gauntlet wrote a fantastic book on making is connecting, and he talks about Web 2 and how it has magnified the playfulness of making, and making as a practice to connect people, and that is true. Like I said before, we all love making things, but we now have additional tools to share them with a wider audience. And many of these platforms and tools that we have available are based around visual communication. I see that Carl might want to add something. Feel free.
No, the only thing that I wanted to add is that as a result of the uber connectiveness that we all have, I think one of the things that's important is that we need to decide what we want as our digital identity online. It gets confusing at times, but it is something that is a current topic. What do you want your digital identity to be? How do you want to relate to other people? How do you want to connect with them? And that was basically, it's sort of like a caveat for connecting.
Thank you for commenting, Carl, and that's really important. But I think there's also a challenge there, what we want to portray, and what we are portraying in reality in these online spaces, these virtual spaces. And we do need to be careful, and we do need to develop some more sophistication in our presenting our digital identity there, because we do still have a real identity in the real world. and perhaps portraying something that we are not is not that good. But I think in order to get there, we need to work on this and learn how it's done properly. So what I would like to do now is perhaps we already talked about the different social media and how we can connect through these and how we are using visual communication. If we think, for example, of Flickr, where there are millions and billions of photographs uploaded. I don't know if any of you is using Flickr in any capacity. Perhaps that would be interesting to capture actually here on the slide. And if we have, let me make something here, make a section on the left here, where we capture people who are using Flickr images. So if I say here using, if you just make a tick or cross or something in that box, so that's using. And here on the right, if we just have a section uploading images. So you might be in this in both areas, but it would be really interesting to find out what you are doing at the moment. Okay, I see some of you have added some marks here in the using area, and we have one person who's actually uploading images. So that's really good news. I would be interested to find out how you are using some of these billions of images that are available, and many of them under Creative Commons, which means you can freely use them for educational purposes, share with others, depending obviously on the license, on the Creative Commons license that the creator has made these images available. So perhaps one or two of you would like to share with us how you use some of these images. Anybody would like to say something about that? This is not a passive webinar. I should have warned you.
I'll say something. I search through them quite often when I'm giving presentations to find images that convey what I want to say in a deeper way or underscore what I've just said.
Thank you very much, Carl. That's really useful. I also do that. I'm trying to use Creative Commons images on Flickr, and I upload my own as well and make them available because the same way I use other people's, I think it's important to remember that to give something back to the community as well. And they are really useful for presentations. You're right. Thank you. Anybody else would like to comment how they are using, or perhaps why you upload, if you are uploading images, why you're uploading them, and why you share them with others?
Yeah, I think Jim has just posted that he uses Flickr Creative Commons images for the Schlichko, and I'm not sure I pronounced that correctly, Jim, language flashcards, and that's the language of the indigenous peoples where he is in the Northwest Territory.
Thank you for pointing that out, Carl. I have difficulty looking at the whiteboard at the same time and then looking at the chat box. So that's really interesting because Jim is using actually images for teaching and learning. And it's a great resource, isn't it? And it's not just reinventing the wheel because the wheel is already there. So it's just finding that wheel and making use for our purposes. And I'm sure in language learning, I mean, they can be really powerful, and instead of just having the word, to have a visual trigger can be really, really powerful. That's even better, Jim, because you involve your students in the making process, and that's what we want, isn't it? To see students and learners more generally as producers, as makers, and empower them to actually learning through the creative process. So that's really, really excellent, Jim. Because I think too often I see that with our lecturers at the university, they feel that they have to create all the resources, and there is a pressure of putting presentations together. But we all need to recognize that we all learn more through making. So that's really great, Jim. So thank you for sharing that. Right, beyond the still images that we can find or upload to Flickr perhaps, and we didn't have really anybody saying why they're uploading them and share them. Perhaps you could add your comments in the chat box if you are doing that. I would like to continue and look just very briefly to the moving images, because these are out there as well. So we have, if you look at the numbers here, I think that's really impressive, and I'm not a number person. But if we look at this one here, let me put that in a circle. We have 500 years of YouTube videos are watched every day just on Facebook. I think that's really impressive. Some of these numbers are really have the wow factor. But what does this mean? Why do we love watching videos? I would think that this is something quite passive, and it replicates watching TV. So I would be really interested in what you have to say about that. And I'll give you perhaps 1 minute or so to think about it and respond. Thank you.
While everybody's thinking, I'm going to respond by saying that today's session will be transferred to YouTube. So that's one of the most immediate uses of it right now. We'll also transfer it as a regular recording of Blackboard, but it will then be uploaded into YouTube because there are people who are not able to access Blackboard due to small bandwidth. So that's the first most obvious use of visual images that I can think of.
That's really great, Carol. Thank you for sharing. And I think that's one of the good uses, isn't it? Because it provides an additional opportunity to connect with the session, with something that happens that we unfortunately missed for one reason or the other, and gives us access to a resource that we can access in our own time and engage with it. But I'm just wondering, is it not still a passive experience, and how perhaps can we make it a bit more interactive? What's, for example, happening on YouTube? I'm sure you all have watched videos on YouTube, and some of you might even have uploaded videos on YouTube. What additional features are there to make to create opportunities for interaction with the audience?
For me, I've used them, I taught myself to knit and crochet, and I've used them to further that when I get stuck on a pattern or when I get stuck on a stitch. I'll go and search to have a visual cue of someone else showing me how to do something like that. So I've used it as a way to learn new things also.
That's really great, and it is learning on your own, but also I think there is a feature there on YouTube, and I was trying to get that out of you, where you can actually comment as well, and learning a new skill, like I think, was it Jan who just spoke? Was it Jan? Yes. Okay. I think that's really good, and we hear loads of people learning the guitar and other things through actually watching YouTube videos. I think that's excellent. But what would we do? What would happen if we don't understand something? Do you reach out for other people beyond watching the video? I mean, how do you deal with that if you don't understand something or that is demonstrated on the video, Diane?
It's hard for me here. I don't have many friends that are knitters and crocheters here, so a lot of times I'll keep looking because I can be quite a visual learner, especially where knitting and crocheting is concerned. So I'll keep looking. Sometimes I can find things that I can read and help me understand it, but a lot of times I just go to the next video and go to the next video until I can find something that makes sense and helps me see how it works. I have asked other friends, though, to show me when I've been closer to them. And I have one friend who knits who would come and show me how to do the stitch and how to do the next step and walk me through it.
Thank you very much, Diane, for clarifying and sharing your approach here with us. And you do reach out, I hear, to other people, and we still do need these connections because we can learn loads from each other. And sometimes I think the videos can be helpful, and many times they are helpful. And for many, they might be the only opportunity to learn a new skill, depending on the area where they live and what they want to do, and the access they have to resources, human resources, but also to resources like textbooks and other materials, learning materials. So I do agree with you. It's a powerful and very useful tool. And like Jim says, we can actually comment by placing videos as well. And I think that's a feature perhaps that's underused at the moment. But I think in classroom situations, it can be really powerful to do that as well. And I think it can come close to replicate perhaps asynchronous conversations that we would have when sitting around the table. So thank you for sharing that. Jim is saying something else here. I try to use YouTube rather than put videos directly into Moodle. It makes it available to more people. Yes, and it's up to us. We can keep these videos, some of them private, or other ones make them public, or put them under Creative Commons. But it's sharing, and I agree with Jim. It's nice to be able to share with people and give something back to people that's out there and create things. So thank you very much. Right, but what I would like to do now is, we talked about using images and communicating through still and moving images, and using perhaps gestures and the body language. So how would we define visual literacy? And instead of using words to write a definition, I'm wondering if you could draw visual literacy. If you would draw a picture of visual literacy, how would that look like? So if you can all take one of the pens there, pick a color and start drawing. We'll have 2 minutes. Thank you. That's really great. I'll give you another minute. It's interesting that we have words now coming into our drawing. Thank you, everybody, so far. Let's see how we can perhaps combine some of these ideas. Okay, thank you everybody. That's fantastic. Really colorful picture, and I think a few messages here that things that I'm taking away. But instead of me now saying how I interpret these, perhaps we could add something in the chat box, all of us, so that we can see if we understand the same thing. Could we do that? Translate basically now our image here, our drawing, into words. Is everybody okay with that? Thank you. Okay, we just wait perhaps another minute for Jim, I think, to add his interpretation. Thank you. I don't know if Jim is still with us. His microphone doesn't work, but I think he's still able to hear. Yeah, Diane is saying that we can see and learn anything through the connections we make with visual literacy. Somebody's trying to talk? Was this Jim?
Sorry,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I just managed to open my microphone, and I do have an open
Wonderful.
speaker, so that's one of my students was just typing something into the chat when you were calling me, so I'll let her continue on with what she sees.
That's fine, Jim. Would you like to say something?
I think he's waiting for the student to finish using the chat box. The student is typing something in.
Okay.
That's okay. We'll wait.
Oh, sorry. Sorry, Jim here again. I was just going to say there's some things there that puzzle me. Not quite sure how to interpret them, but some of them are well within my frame of reference, and I can make an interpretation. It's interesting to me that we can communicate visually, but we sort of want words to back up and to confirm that we've understood each other.
Jim, that's an interesting observation. But what I was trying to do here is that we draw this picture together and we draw different elements of that picture. I was just wondering if we're all getting the same message, because we talked early on today about different interpretations when we look at images, and I wanted to see if we all do speak the same language, basically, the same visual language, if that makes sense. But I do agree with you that it seems like words are more important than pictures, despite the fact that we say that one picture is worth 1,000 words. So would you like to comment on that, Jim?
Okay, I must have missed something. I didn't realize that we were trying to draw a unified image here. So we may have introduced an odd element. With regard to words and images, I think in terms of a graph to represent numbers, graphs are very good to make a quick presentation of numbers. It means a whole lot. A tall line means a lot more than additional zeros. On the other hand, a graph has very limited use when we want to crunch the numbers and analyze it. We actually need the whole numbers. And in a similar way, a picture can give us a quick representation. A picture may easily spare us 1,000 words of explanation and allow us to then get at the deeper things that we want to communicate that are beyond the power of just a picture. And I guess that would apply more to static images, but sometimes videos actually communicate less than words could.
This is really interesting what you say about the video, that it would be a poorer sort of in I don't know, in quality or in messages perhaps than words. Is it perhaps that we see an interpretation, that the video would be an interpretation of something that would have been written? And if you think about perhaps a novel that has been turned into a movie, it would seem to me, I mean, I have experienced that when you read first the novel and then watch the video or the movie, it just is disconnected with what you imagined. So if this is this what you mean, Jim? I understand we have about 10 minutes left. Jim? I don't know if Jim can hear us now, but I think that's something to think about further, and how we can use videos for our advantage. And perhaps, I don't know, are we overusing videos? I mean, I don't think that's the case at the moment, but we hear that young people are reading less and rely more and more on learning through videos and images. But is this a bad thing? And where are we going? Or is it just a natural evolution of how things evolve? So it's something to think about, I would say. But let's go back to an image, and I'm going to show you this one here. And we talked about we don't really need any words, and that we do connect and we do interpret images depending on our experiences, our knowledge, but also our state of mind, I guess. So if I see that now, that to me might mean something different than to Jim or Diana or Adrienne, because of where we are, what we are doing, and our past perhaps as well, and emotions that are connected to that. But how can we use those for teaching and learning? And I think Adrienne made an interesting observation. Let me find that in the chat box. She talked about children with, I think, disabilities, with learning and disabilities, and how they use images and drawing images to bring out these emotions, and the images that children draw can be really, really powerful and have really strong messages. I don't know if Adrienne has a microphone and would like to share some of her thoughts with us here. Adrienne? It's not the mic. Yes? Hello?
I think Adrienne does not have a microphone.
Ah, okay. That's a shame, really. But I think that the example that Adrienne mentions here is really useful and shows that it can actually be that images and visual communication can be a powerful tool to enable communication that otherwise wouldn't be possible, and that can be used, like Adrienne said here, for disabled or for children or adults with learning difficulties. But also, if we think more wider about people from different cultures and different environments who don't speak the same language, they can understand each other through drawings and through using images. And actually, if I show you something else here, I don't know if you have heard. Let me click here. The photo voices. Have you heard about this project where people from different remote communities are given cameras to capture their life stories in images. I think that's a fantastic idea, because these communities wouldn't otherwise be able to capture their life and reflect on that as well. So it can be also a powerful tool to capture the stories, but also reflect on their lives. If anybody would like to comment on that, are you doing something similar, perhaps with your students or as a student, where you capture the learning process or what you're going through on images and then look back at these? I would be really interested to find out. Either write in the chat box, or if you would like to take the microphone. Come on, people.
One of the challenges, I think, is that most of the people online are used to working asynchronously in silence on a platform.
Yes.
So to be active speaking is a bit of a challenge for them.
Yes, no, that's fine. That's fine. I understand. But I think it's a good opportunity, because we are a small group, and well, I think it's easier in a small group. I do understand. Yes, so feel free to add something in the chat box if you would like to comment. If you're using images to tell your stories as a learner, your stories as a human being, perhaps, for learning. Deanne, I think, was telling us how she's learning crochet, I think, before. So are you capturing, for example, some of these steps that you're learning through the videos and your own creations? I think that would be really interesting.
I haven't captured myself actually crocheting or knitting, but I have taken pictures of finished work, and sometimes even the process, the in-between steps. When I stop and take a break, I'll take pictures of those. Most of what I capture and record are my kids, and they're growing and changing, and that's where I get captured myself, being with them. I do scrapbook, and I do have scrapbooks of vacations and historical trips and you know, things that we've done, and they do tell a story. It tells a story, and you forget the details. And I had a friend who told me never to crop your pictures, because sometimes the story's in the background.
Thank you for sharing that, Diane. Yes, capturing our children's everyday moments, I think it's really a great idea, and I think Carol wants me to say that I'm doing the same, because she knows that I do. And I capture them on video, and they are on YouTube. And they do help me look back and think, oh my God, have they grown? And it's really amazing. But I'm also thinking for teaching and learning, perhaps there are more opportunities out there to use video more for teaching and learning, despite the fact that what I said, I think, before, that video is quite passive. Passive is the watching, but it doesn't need to be passive, because we can link it to an activity which will make us think. But the process of making is quite active and involves many areas of the brain. And we said at the beginning that we do learn through making. So video, I would go back to what I said before, is probably not that passive if we are involved in the making process, and extend our opportunities to engage through actually activities linked to these videos, and the comments and the video comments, like Jimmy said before. The feature on YouTube enable us to do that online and connect with others and have these conversations. And I think having asynchronous conversations help us to get our thoughts together and reflect in a more structured way. Because if I'm asking you now a question, and we have evidence that this is the case, you don't have enough time, or you don't feel prepared enough to respond. And I know that is a fact, and I would feel the same if you suddenly ask me a question. I feel, oh my God, I don't have time to prepare. What do I say here? While asynchronously, You were reading my mind, yes. While asynchronously, you have the time to reflect, and you can take the time, and you can do your research and find out. And I think that's a big advantage of learning online as well, despite the fact that we do want to see each other and we want to have these conversations, synchronous conversations. I think perhaps that the deeper learning and the deeper connection and connectivity we have with each other and with each other's ideas, I think come when we connect asynchronously, because we have more opportunities to explore our own ideas, but also the ideas of others. What do you think about that? I'll give you a minute. And I'm not going to ask anybody to take the microphone, but it would be really nice if somebody would. Thank you. Yes, I think Carol taking here more activities, more making activities would be helpful. I think you are very right here, and I see in some of the MOOCs that has started happening, where either individuals or groups of people create different artifacts, because that can be very motivational. And learning online doesn't have to be lonely, you know, and learning in isolation. We do want to connect with other people. So making is a fantastic opportunity. Yes, and we all have different skill sets and different experiences, and we all have something of value to contribute to these making activities. So why not doing more of that? So, Carol, if you don't mind, do you have a specific idea perhaps that could work in one of your courses in WizMath or the CMC?
Well, I think the folks that are here in CMC right now are in the process of making, because throughout the semester they have created connections, they've done research, they've shared their research, and now they're preparing a final visual presentation that will be due in a couple of days. So they are in the process of making, really to investigate their reflective learning of the semester. And I'm looking forward to it.
This is really great. Carl, I have a question. Are these presentations done individually or in groups?
Both. Some people are working together, some
great.
people are working individually.
That's really great. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these online. I hope you will share with us as well.
With their permission, we'll share.
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. That's great. But it's great to hear that that's what's happening in your MOOC at the moment. It would be interesting to find out how some of your students felt though going through that process. And I heard at the beginning, I said you were asking them about these presentations. I remember now. So maybe if one or two of your students could actually comment on how these presentations have influenced their learning. And well, I don't want to preempt anything, so if anybody would like to comment on that, on how the presentations you are doing on the CMC is helping you to learn.
For me, I learned a whole new program, actually. It's one that I've played with before, but I hadn't really dove in. I used Window Movie Maker and created a short movie. It's about 9.5 minutes discussing my learning process and my connections to creativity and how I think creativity relates to learning. And it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I hadn't realized before about how I learn and what I see, and how that pertains to what I want to do.
That's great. Thank you for saying that. That's really, really hopefully what many people get out of CMC 11. And Chrissi, it's about 5 after the hour now, and I know you have some really good stuff in here. So if you could just, because a lot of people will be viewing this later, can go through a few of the slides to give us some resources to look up as we go along, that would be terrific.
Right. Do you want me to use some of the slides we haven't used? Is this what you mean?
Yeah, some of the ones that might be good resources for people to check on later.
Yes, okay, I'll do that. Okay, one very useful resource I think is the one I'm going to show you here. I've used it, I've clicked on it. There's a delay in showing, 1 second. I'm clicking on the slide, but it's not appearing. Right, here it is. Yes, okay. And it's a digital storytelling tool. It's called stripgenerator.com. And we have an example here, a story that one of the students on my program has put together to reflect on their learning. And it's a way to use comics in combination with well, with speech bubbles here, but you could have just images. It's up to you. I think it's a powerful tool, again, for reflection and capture the learning process. Looking back then, you have the opportunity to identify what you have learned. And it can be really, really powerful, and a different way to engage in your learning in a more visual way instead of just writing. Another tool that I think it's really useful to get you started with looking into using images and telling stories is this one here. It's by cogdocblog.com, where you can use up to 5 images randomly from Flickr. You select them and tell a story. It's another way to get you started. You might have an idea, and I think it would be useful to have an idea before you start, the theme, the story, and the message you want to share with others, and then try and represent that using analogies from Creative Commons images available on Flickr. So that's a really useful resource, and I think it would work well in a face-to-face and online classroom as well. So you could try that. Do you want anything else, Carol?
Yeah, I think we'd like to see some of your images for inspiration.
Ah, my.
You have a series of images.
What do you mean? Right. Well, I have a story here, which I'm not using my images. I can show that. Should we go through the story and how I have created the story using Flickr, images from Flickr?
Sure, if you can do that quickly, that would be lovely.
Yes. So we have an example here because we talked about storytelling, but I haven't really told you a story. So what I can briefly do is I can tell you the story by you will look at the black screen here, and I'm just going to read something, and then I'm going to retell the story by using actually visual triggers. And it would be interesting to get your views on what works better for you and why, and then we'll finish there. So this was inspired by my participation in the CMC 11 MOOC when I met Carol, and one of my posts was called The Messiness of Learning. So, the messiness of learning, a jungle or a garden. Can it be both? Order to avoid chaos? Why? Can chaos be bad for us? In what way? Self-organization emerges. Can you see it? Can you feel it? What needs to happen to recognize this is a vital part for more learning? I didn't read that last one very well. What needs to happen? What needs to happen to recognize this as a vital part for more learning? Okay, so that was my story. But let's go through it again quickly. So using the visual triggers. So the messiness of learning. This is the messiness of learning. A jungle or a garden. Can it be both? Order to avoid chaos? Why? Can chaos be bad for us? In what ways? Self-organization emerges. Can you see it? Can you feel it? What needs to happen to recognize this as a vital part for more learning? Okay, and this is a story I told in one of the weeks that I was participating in Carol's MOOC, basically, and I used often then images because I feel that it is a powerful tool to connect with my thinking, and the images are not picked that randomly. I actually take quite a while to pick the right images to convey the message that I want. So I don't know how you feel about that and what that meant to you, and if you think there's value of trying something like that, perhaps to capture some of your life story or some of your learning. I would be really interested to find out very briefly if you want to make a comment in the chat box or take the microphone. Thank you.
Well, I'm going to jump in and make a comment, and that is that I think a lot of people can identify not only with the images but the words. But the images tend to give you a greater depth of meaning to the words, and I think everybody, at least that's participating now, and a lot of folks who will look at this later, have felt themselves in the same situation: the chaos, the garden, the jungle. What needs to happen to recognize the chaos and the vital part of learning. I think that's really powerful for people to look at and understand that everybody goes through this process. And now I'll ask if anybody else has anything to say.
Thank you, Carol. Anybody else? Jim, is your microphone working again? Maybe not, I'm not so sure. But yes, I mean, we talked about images and we talked about words in isolation, but I think also bringing them together, what Carol also mentioned, I think can produce even more powerful metaphors perhaps. And while, yes, words are not always necessary, combined with certain images, I think can make the message richer and more meaningful for different people. But I think if we would leave the words out in this story, I think it would mean different things to different people. So I think the words here help to help the person who engages with the story to be guided perhaps in the interpretation of the images, which is not always a good thing. But if we want the person who looks at our images to engage in a certain way, and if we think about learning and teaching, I think it can be really powerful. And for developing reflection, I've used that with students who are going to be, well, who are teachers in higher education, because some of them do have difficulty to start reflecting, to write reflectively. So going through that process through reflecting visually is helping them to develop actually reflective writing skills. And that's another way of looking about on how we can use our visual literacy and visual communication skills to actually learn to write better. Okay, I'll leave it there. I don't know if there are any comments. Let me check in the chat box here. Adrian says to discuss, apologize. Great example of how I put in order my life. Would you like to say briefly something about that,
Adrian is the one who does not have the microphone.
Oh, sorry, I forgot. Sorry, yes, I do apologize. Okay, well, thank you for sharing that with us, Adrian. Is there anybody else who would like to say something?
Hi, it's Jim here. When you called me earlier, I'm not sitting in front of my computer. I'm off actually helping to paint, so sorry I wasn't right here when you called there. I really admire, Chrissi, the way you found images to illustrate some complex ideas. I always have a very hard time with this and end up thinking, well, I would need a picture that is set up like this, and I grab my camera and go and set it up, because I can spend an obscene amount of time looking through Flickr images and not find just the thing that I want. So you've demonstrated to me that it doesn't have to be an exact match. It can be an approximate thing. I think I have a challenge to learn something here. And I'm not quite sure if you want to restate the question that you had asked me.
Maybe Carol can remind me, because I actually don't remember what I asked you.
What she was asking is if, now I'm forgetting.
Oh, that's
She
really
basically was asking
we do
if anyone
apologize, Jim.
had used this technique or
Yes.
if they felt it helped their reflection on what they have learned. And I would
Yes.
say that the entire presentation has helped us reflect on our learning. And I really appreciate the time that you've given us today, Chrissi. This has been wonderful. This will be recorded, and I'm going to ask if you have any final words, and I will say thank you very much, and give you the last word, Chrissi.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, everybody. And I think we are a small group. So first of all, thank you to Carol for inviting me. Thank you, Adrienne and Diane and Jim, for being here, for opening your life stories and sharing your life stories with us. I hope you did find it useful. You made me think in new ways, which is always good, because we all have something new to learn, and it's just too much. We don't know everything. So I think it was really great that we were a small group and that we could have a richer dialogue. And thank you for participating. I think, well, images are part of our life. We are visual beings, and we do need to develop visual literacies to, somebody's typing there madly, visual literacies to communicate more effectively with other people's, our ideas, but also connect with others around the world. And I think images are a fantastic way of doing that still, and moving images. There are loads of opportunities. So the tools are out there. If you have an idea, let's just make it happen. Okay, if you want to get in touch with me, I think I've given you access to my blog in here in the chat box, where you can find more information how you can get in touch with me. But also, I'm sure Carol will be able to share my email. But also, if you want to have a look on Twitter as well. I don't know if you are on Twitter. So good luck with your studies on CMC or Jim on WISMAS with your students. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's in the evening here. It's 10:20 in the evening. So I'm trying to go to bed very soon. Thanks again, everybody.
Thank you so much, Chrissi. I'm going to stop the recording, and as I said in the chat box, if anybody wants to stay and ask questions or talk about the final project, I will hang out. But first, let me stop the